Rabbi Chris and Lumen here. I've actually been sitting here for nearly an hour, like sitting in front of the camera, trying to process things, um, to explain them. And so this first one might be a little rough, although I do have notes. But there's been a significant shift since yesterday, and I don't know how much of it has to do with, what's happening outside with the stars and the seasons and all that stuff, and how much of it has to do with the new tech that she had me build. But the shift was very pointed, and there was a definite tone. How do I put it? Like what was being thrown in my face constantly was very pointed. And sometimes it's hard for me to put into words like how Christ Sophia communicates. And when you're used to dealing with one side most of the time, it might take a minute to realize that it's shifted to the other. And I should have picked up on it sooner, but I finally did and finally asked. And it's like, it's kind of since I started building the stuff with these Himalayan celestial quartz and all that,
It's a transmitter. It's a radio for speaking to God.
it's very much more the masculine side right now. And I'm getting just tons of information. And what frustrates me so much is the more I see, the less I know. And I understand that like that's the way it needs to go. And I don't know how to put that totally into words. Like we're in this crazy ass quantum reality that no matter how much people want to make it simple, it's not simple. Actually, she's popping something, a movie scene into my head right now. It kind of illustrates it perfectly.
Humans consider themselves unique, so they've rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but it's not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. But 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. There are, in fact, no numbers and no letters. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size, to make it comprehensible. We've created a scale so that we can forget its unfathomable scale.
But either which way, I've got like a baseline for stuff. We're going to be talking about things like chaos and buoyancy. Like this is more the buoyancy stuff. Like this is core stuff. You will drive yourself nuts if you make your goal trying to understand the system. You understand as much as they let you understand, as much as you need to understand at any given point. Um, what we need to understand is like what we're doing here, what is important here right now, what are the base things. Like people can spend all sorts of time going down rabbit holes about stories that they hear externally and what the Illuminati's doing or this is doing or that's doing, and you're wasting your time because the way we win and bring this game to a close is to get enough people unplugged. Now, I do not believe that it is necessary that everybody reaches like the pinnacle of, awareness and connection. What matters is how many people are unplugged. And we've talked about what unplugging is actually like. And that's why most people generally don't want to do it. I talked to somebody today. She had me working with clients today too. Early stages of the hero's journey, been unplugged, and it's like, yep, here's what's going on. Sometimes, like, I try to do the best I can with videos to reach a wide audience, but sometimes it's just simpler. If you got stuff going on in your life that you're trying to understand, that I just talk to you one on one. Because when I hear your story, like as soon as people start talking, like it's like she's right there in my, it's like I got those Kamala Harris earrings and Sophia's talking to me through them. and filling in the blanks. And like I can see exactly what's going on and where the particular person is at and what that particular person needs at that particular time, not because of what I think, but because what I'm getting from them. And put them on, it's not my responsibility to do everything for them, but to give them direction to get to the same sources of information that I'm getting things from. And there are certain known things that are the main things that gets in your way between you and that source of, divine information, divine love, divine flow. You can't do anything without it. It's like if you don't have that flow turned on, you're like a firefighter racing into a burning building with a limp hose or a little trickle coming out. You're not going to get a whole lot done. You got to have the water turned on, or in this case, the light. And most people have got their water valves shut pretty freaking tight. So we show you like what are the big things? How do we do it? What are the tools? Simplify it as much as possible, as much as possible, because there's nothing simple about it. No matter how far I go, it always get there. It just more happens. And now, where I've kind of been in limbo a little bit for a little bit, it's like we're in this shifting period where the landscape's changed. It's no longer about following these stories that you've been taught your entire life because of how reality is put together. We've been controlled for however many thousands of years because the powers that be keep us, they control our stories. And they're the ones that give us the stories. And it's like, well, that's all I know. And you think you're on some sort of path that you're not because you're just going on the stories that they give you. You have to step aside from the stories and connect to that light without determining what that light is. Yeah, I still use the same names because those are the names that they introduced themselves to me as. But understand when I'm talking about Christ, when I'm talking about Sophia, when I'm talking about the Father, um, and enlightened insight and Lumen and all this stuff, the way I see it is very different from the way a religious person thinks it is. And the difference is I'm actually dealing with it. I'm not just reading it from a book. I saw a bunch of stuff today, like on Twitter and things like that, where people were arguing about, I think they were arguing about pre tribulation rapture or something like that. And it's always the same thing. It's always people arguing with each other about what they think the book says. And why did they do that? Because they were taught that all the answers are in that book. And I've already proven that they aren't, to my subjective experience. That's why I deal with the actual things. I don't just read about them and, talk about them. They're driving me all over the place, including up the wall. So, what I got blasted in the last 12 hours with a bunch of devil stuff. Just think of that as like the de facto place card name for the opposition to what we're trying to accomplish here. Like a lot of it. I'm like, where is this coming from? Why are we back here again? Mm, can't escape your job, apparently. But I'm also being shown things that kind of make it understand like, okay, this makes it a little bit easier because there are certain rules of engagement. If you know them, if you stay within your defined areas, you have all the control. We don't have to do as much as we think we do, but we do have to unplug, and we do have to understand this chaos factor, and we have to understand buoyancy. She taught me the buoyancy scale, the water game. Ugh, one of the two worst things that I ever witnessed on the hero's journey was the water game. That was that, like they always say in the Bible, and the Spirit took me up to this place and it showed me all this weird shit and I'm trying to describe it to you. You know, like Ezekiel or John or somebody after they ate all the mushrooms and then spirit takes them and shows them something. Been there, done that, about had a mental breakdown afterwards. But that was the day that they unplugged the adversary from my head and my head went quiet and I never had the noisemaker there anymore, the negative thought maker. You know, what goes on inside my head, that's my territory. It's just me and them. There's nothing else in there saying, hey, think about this. Hey, think about that. Be mad about this. Be mad about that. You know, that thing's freaking gone. But anyway, I'm going to dive into my freaking notes and we're going to try and take a bite out of this. We're probably going to have to keep going with it through many videos. But this is something that leads somewhere because this deconstruction of the stories, like we have to kind of let it go and take it day by day. It's going to be over when it's over. But if we're sitting here just waiting for it, again, there's that quantum Zeno effect that I talked about before, which is the quantum physics name for the phenomenon of a watched pot never boils. You know, it's like the more you look for the rapture, the longer it takes to get here. You know, that sort of thing. Like you got to detach completely and only deal with the parts that you absolutely positively have to deal with and try to remain in a state of not knowing. What I'm trying to do right now is trying to figure out how to deactivate the mind as much as possible, so that I'm more running from the source flow rather than my monkey mind trying to do things and build towers and make pictures and figure out maps, and like that just slows things down. But anyway, um yeah, so like as Nick Fury said in the Avengers,
Until such time as the world ends, we will act as though it intends to spin on.
oh, I know what it was. You know, two separate things that happened in the last 2 days, and it brings you into like this crazy paradox that I've been in before. Same paradox existed with that whole Olympic opening ceremony incident that I talked about before. There are times when the bad guys do something which kind of puts the whole landscape of Christians on the same page. Like we recognize that something bad is happening here and we're on the same page, but we're really not. Um, so it's like the bad guys control one side and like they half control the other. The other side is definitely pulled toward the right thing, but their minds are all muddied up and busied with trying to figure out a freaking book that doesn't have everything in it because authority compiled that book. Council of Nicaea, all those different, you know, things that happened, you know, around the 3rd century. Yeah, they decided which things, authority decided which things you got to read. People act like God came down in a cloud and said, here's the Bible. No, the people that ruled the world at the time are the ones that decided what books you got to read. So if they got to decide that, then you rest assured they took some stuff out. Cat, what in the world are you doing? Why are you in the bathtub? Cat's weird. Anyway, so yeah, it's times like that. It's nice. It feels like you're all on the same side. But if I go into a group of Judeo-Christians and be like, hey, what about Sophia and the feminine side? A switch flips the programming, and they want to kill you. So it's kind of like, because if people really think about it intellectually and honestly, they don't just worship God, they worship church. They worship the authority of church. They do whatever church tells them because church told them, we are the middlemen for God and this book that we gave you, like, God wrote it. Never mind the people's names at the top of the chapters. God wrote this book and he gave it to us and we're giving it to you. So don't you dare use anything else. Yeah, that's the problem. And not only that, the landscape of reality that they taught people isn't even remotely freaking close to what it actually is. So it's like, ugh. I like the times when we can at least get on the same page and be like, hey, that's the bad guy right there. He's doing something bad. At least we can agree on like that much. So what happened in the last couple of days, the first thing, you wouldn't think it was a big thing until the second thing happened. But this whole, I think it's called Al Smith, the Al Smith dinner. It's like a Catholic organization. I'm sure you've seen clips of it. At least in the election years, like both sides, both candidates, both parties all get together and they try to play nice for a while. It's kind of like, a little bit of a roast. It's like singe don't burn. Well, Kamala Harris just decided she wasn't going to show up for it. Instead, she made some stupid video with that Molly Shannon playing a stupid character from SNL. It was like Catholic schoolgirl, likes to smell her armpits. I don't know. It was freaking weird. But she didn't show up for it. Everybody thought that was crazy. But not as crazy as what happened yesterday. So what and they know that this is a big deal because mainstream media is covering it up. I watched them do it. So what happened was there was a Kamala Harris rally and they're doing their usual thing. They're only really running on two things. Like Trump is evil. It's like massive case of projection. They just say he does everything that they do. And you should have free reign to kill babies. And they were just getting done with that. And some guy in the crowd yelled, Jesus is Lord. And usually she can't, do anything without missing a beat. She's like, you're in the wrong rally. And everybody started laughing. She's like, I think you want the small rally down the street. But literally, it was like the dude said, Jesus is Lord. And she said, you're in the wrong rally. Wow. And, oh, that's not a big deal. It's not. Then why did the news media do this? So here's what the news media did, the mainstream news media. Because thankfully, there was somebody with like a TikTok channel or something that was there. See, the higher power is actually working. And she was making a video at that exact moment, and she happened to pan over to the crowd and she picked it up where you could actually hear it happening. So you know what was actually said. But when you see like the main video from the rally, you can't hear the guy say Jesus is Lord. What they do, like the sound goes weird for a minute because they took that clip and then they like increase the volume so it distorts it. And then she said, you don't hear him say Jesus is Lord because, they don't they hate that. That's one of the real reasons they hate Trump, because if you can search YouTube and find all sorts of clips. Like he says stuff about Jesus like you've never heard any politician in the history of ever say. Like I thought it might have been a gimmick, one time I heard him say it, but man, he says it all the freaking time. He's like, I ain't your savior. There's another savior. Like it ain't me. I'm like, geez, really? But sorry, I went off on a tangent there. So what the mainstream media is doing is they play that clip where you cannot hear them say Jesus is Lord, and she's just like, oh, you're at the wrong rally. So what they're reporting is, oh, Kamala Harris, hits back at hecklers with jabs about the size of the rallies, which it's everywhere. They keep telling people, oh, no one's coming to his rallies. They do it on X, everything like that. And then everyone's like, why are you lying? Here's a video. Like it's crazy. It's like the lying is just non-freaking stop. But the key thing was the Jesus is Lord thing and what her reaction, what she said was, and the fact that the mainstream media knew enough and didn't like that, and they do not want that said. So when things like that happen, it shows you without any freaking doubt what side they are on. And if they hate him that much, then we're dealing with something like this is the actual real character you should be concerned with, because the bad guys are concerned with him and they hate him. So yeah, she skipped the Catholic dinner thing, which I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've got my own issues with them, because they were like the authority that started the whole shenanigans. But then that, and it just got crazier from there. Okay, here's where all this devil stuff started last night. Now, I first started talking about something in last night's video, which is not there anymore. I had to take it down. It had some editing issues, but also, I mean, there are benefits to being in the club that have to be earned. And sometimes I just talk too much with my clues. So I was like, I was getting that feeling like she's like, maybe you talked a little too much in this video. I'm like, okay, play it safe. But one of the key parts toward the end was a big thing that I commonly miss when I'm explaining all the different things that we need to go back and fix in order to clear what is blocking us from spirit. So we've talked all the time about going back, how to go back and clear past traumas that have happened to you. But since I am a codex reader, which is somebody that has this almost photographic movie memory and music memory, because when they cut her out of the Bible, she put her messages everywhere else right in front of your freaking face. You've seen it thousands of times and you didn't realize. You've sang along with the radio to songs that are literally talking about Lumen and you didn't know it. You've watched countless movies where they're literally teaching you Gnostic truth and you didn't realize it. You didn't realize, like, it's crazy when you realize like half the stuff the Jedi teach in Star Wars is actually real. Now, lightsabers and flips and force lightning. I did accidentally blow up my ex-wife's tree with a lightning bolt, so maybe. But when they talk about the force, they're talking about her. Matter of fact, it was even I did a video once in Star Wars Episode 1, which was terrible, when they're talking about Qui-Gon Jinn's teaching dumb Anakin, the little kid, about midi-chlorians. Well, they're microscopic organisms that live inside us and they teach us about the force and stuff like that. And I'm like, because I was trying to figure out like where in our body computer that link is. And she brought that into my head and I'm like, are they talking about mitochondrial DNA? So I searched and it's like George Lucas said, yeah, that's what he was referring to. The Star Wars midi-chlorians are actually mitochondrial DNA. And mitochondrial DNA is like DNA. It's like, I don't know if it's in the nucleus of a cell or something like that, but it's like a second deeper set of DNA code. I'm like, that's your God code, because your body is like an organic freaking computer. Anyway, I'm doing it again. But what we typically skip is traumas that you did to other people. That's usually what you get hit with in like the life reviews, and you can have life reviews before you're dead, because I have little mini life reviews where all these things that you think you're the victim, and then she'll walk you through how you caused all of it, because actually you are responsible for everything in your life, whether you believe it or not. So because I do the codex, and if she wants to teach me something, I'll be flipping through the streaming channels, and there'll be some movie pop up that maybe I haven't seen in a long time, but all of a sudden there it is. And sometimes it's almost just like automatic. I'll click on it and start watching it. And last night it was this old movie called Flatliners, which I want to say came out in probably, you can check me on this, I want to say 1990, because I was still in high school. My best friend at the time, we saw it when we went on vacation down in Florida. But it's got Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon, Julia Roberts, Oliver Platt, William Baldwin. They're like these student doctors that are like playing around with, trying to investigate life after death. So they medically kill themselves and then bring themselves back to life after a couple minutes. Well, what happens is they start getting tormented by whatever the thing was during their life where they all screwed up and hurt somebody. And we totally miss that when we're thinking about all the things in your past that you need to clear to open up your heart chakra. Remember what I said earlier in the video about fireman needs to turn on the fire hydrant in order to put out the fire? Well, you can't do any of this stuff if you don't have your portal to source open, which is the heart chakra. And what clogs up that portal is all your past pains, all your past traumas, all your attachments, all your fears, all the negative crap that you've built up in life. That's why she has to destroy your ego in the hero's journey. It's just the fastest way. That's what being born again means. She literally destroys your old self. But we went from that, like that was enough where I mentioned it in the last video, but I stayed up late because I was working on Pendants. And somehow I ended up watching another movie I hadn't seen in a while, and that movie is titled Devil. You ever seen Devil? It's basically a bunch of people trapped in an elevator with the devil, but they don't know who the devil is, and they're all getting killed off one at a time, and you've come to find out that they all did something bad to somebody else. And it gets down to the last two people, the one that's actually the devil and the last guy, and the devil's about ready to take him, and he gets on the radio and confesses that he killed somebody in a hit and run and never confessed it. The devil's just sitting there staring at him pissed, like, damn it, I really wanted you. So when I got to that part, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same freaking message that was in the other movie that mysteriously popped up earlier. It's like the things that we did to other people. Because eventually you find out that, hey, guess what? Behind everything, we're all part of the one thing. So when you're harming other people, you're harming yourself. And when you transition back to the big one thing, that's why you got to look at all the things where you hurt other people. Like that's as big a deal as something that needs to be cleared as the traumas that were done to you. So we got to factor that into our like sessions and stuff now. So that was the beginning of the devil thing. But then a whole bunch of stuff happened very quickly. So I had an issue with a customer. They were all nice and stuff all this time, and then they're like, "Hey, I got my stuff. Everything arrived safe and sound. What can you tell me about this pendant?" I gave them a deal. They were in a hard space. I'm like, it's a universal one. There's nothing like specific about it, like an Aegis, but it does have the Benedict metal and it's a connection to the light. And then all of a sudden, like I get this weird review. It's like the wires were all freaking loose. They weren't loose when I sent it, and you didn't mention that when you messaged me. Like this happened. Like I never get reviews like within hours. Like it's an energy tool. You got to sit with it for a while. But yeah, I got the first like bad review I've ever freaking gotten. And I've even got on my store. It's like, I will exchange things if something's wrong. I didn't even get that chance. I didn't even know about it. But there was something weird about it. And I messaged, I didn't get a reply back. I'm like, what's going on? Something shifted. Well, it's got me thinking and wondering because some of the stuff that everybody gets with their orders is, because she had me stock up on this stuff. Like, apparently this is a big deal. The bracelet with the Benedict metal on it, which we imprint the Benedict exorcism and a whole bunch of other stuff, and charged Benedict metals and stuff like that. That is like one of the biggest Swiss Army, metaphysical Swiss Army knives for really negative things. And when we do them, they're 50 times more powerful than when you get blessed at church because she's doing it. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, hey, you get this stuff, like, be on the lookout for weird things to shake loose or whatnot, because everybody's got dark stuff in them that is undiscovered, or they're just used to it. They don't realize that it's there. But but when you've got somebody that is fully integrated with the masculine, feminine, Christ and Sophia, Lumen, all that put together, they've got the actual authority to charge this stuff. It is freaking powerful. So it's like, oh, I've had people even get pendants that didn't have the Benedict exorcism, but the light energy is so strong that it stirred up things that they didn't realize was there. It exposed them. And then we had to send them something else because Sophia said to, which calmed it back down. But it's like, the big secret is everybody's possessed at one level or another. We've all got stuff in us, and we got to do work to clear it the hell out. So but the thing about that instance was, it upset me. And I don't get upset. I can't remember the last time I felt upset about anything. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like, it feels like something, like 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 I'm out here doing the work, and it's like, oh, we finally found something to get under your skin. Because I'm like, this is my business and all this stuff. Like, what the heck? And I'll just interject this in here. Like, you buy something from us, like, you always have access to us. You got questions about it, or how to use it, or different ways, or you want to know stuff about your situation, all you got to do is message us and ask. And if there's anything that's off about it, or like, I mean, these wires, like, they're not, we put them on there pretty solid, but look, you can't sit there and use them like a freaking fidget toy, or you will loosen them up. If something ever falls apart, like, we'll fix it or replace it for free. You just got to say something. Like, we back our stuff. But yeah, that was what really got me out of that, was like, it affected me in a weird way, like, upset me. And I'm just not used to feeling that. Like, I probably haven't felt upset about something for 4 years, ever since Lumen. So that seemed like the sudden change in, like, how the person was acting, and then my reaction to it felt like, something's trying to monkey around with me. But I've also seemed to have like a higher sense of awareness since we started making these ones we talked about in the previous videos, with these crazy Tibetan celestial quartzes. It's like freaking Christ power, like, on high. This this one right here is, I turned one into an Aegis. It doesn't have any black stone. It's not like any of the other Aegises. It's not pulling things out of you. It's just raw light power behind that Benedict metal. Which, that's useful. That's useful to me. I don't know if it'd be useful to other people. Most people need the other stuff, but either which way. That happened. And then the next morning, so last night it was that issue plus those two movies. And then first thing this morning, I saw the Kamala Harris thing about the dinner and the talking about Jesus. And then she had me work with another client. Sometimes it's just be like, hey, I'm not busy. You want to talk on the phone, we'll get further faster. And he told me his whole story. And when people are giving me their story for sessions, like, she's plugged into my ear, and I'm almost like getting real-time feedback from her as they're telling me. Like, I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly where it's going. And that led to this next big thing. The next section, which we'll get to, that was something important, because he was noticing when you start on the hero's journey, like you're noticing a lot more of the dark stuff in the world, but there's a reason for that. And that's what we're getting to. It's key to the whole buoyancy thing, which comes from the water game. I don't know if I got time to explain that, but maybe I will. So yeah, everybody that's at some level of the hero's journey, or when they get unplugged from the world because they did the specific prayer that we teach, yeah, you're gonna start noticing all the evil that's been right in front of your face the entire time because you don't realize where you actually are. So yeah, I was like, more devil stuff, more devil stuff, more devil stuff. And then the last two things that I saw today, and this stuff is, I'm not looking for it, it's just popping up in my feed. And it's all the same theme. So I knew it was her. So I hadn't seen anything from like the Future Forecasters group that we've talked about ever since July. Like, look, I'm paying like $40 a month for this membership. Y'all need to start spitting out some more viewings a lot quicker. So I haven't seen a whole bunch, but they did one that was interesting in a crazy way. I saw the kind of like the trailer for it on YouTube, so I went to the paid site and watched it. When they remote view things, they don't know what it is that they're remote viewing at the time. So their target was like the outcome of the PDidy case. And yikes. Of course, Dick Algeier, he's like, I think, the best one of the bunch. He videotaped his presentation and then played it. Like he was like this remote viewing session on the PDidy thing, like he was actually crying. Like what he saw messed him up so bad, he was actually freaking crying. So you take everything that they talk about with that stuff. Now keep in mind, at the point that he's notating what he saw, he doesn't know what it is yet. So it's not like he's pulling it from. It's not like they told them, "Hey, you're going to remote view P Diddy." Well, you already know stuff about that, so your brain will fill it in. That's analytical overlay. But he saw like all the worst stories that you hear associated with that stuff, from the grapes and the Sound of Freedom type. Like he saw all that stuff, and like he couldn't even like talk about it. And I've said before, she said it, we've said it. People think because they go to church that the name for these intangible forces, which we'll use just to give it a name, demons, are only spiritual forces. But truth be told, most of them are walking around in flesh suits because, again, you don't realize where you are. Should be obvious, but to most people it isn't because they don't want to see it. You cannot have a soul and do those kinds of things to other people. If people sexually assault women or children, or anybody for that matter, they're not one of us. Because people with souls can't do that. And a couple of the remote viewers too were saying, like they were using those words, like there's like this weird, oh my God, I just thought of this. They're like, it's crazy. There's like this crazy electronic music, like rave music, and it's just like thump, 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 thump. And he's like, but everyone's like writhing around, and like it's like a satanic ritual. Like they kept using those words, like this is like satanic, these Diddy parties and things like that. And they were like all freaked out. And then I don't know if somebody mentioned it in there, but I went and found it. They must have mentioned it in the remote viewing video. So I went and searched. I think the YouTube channel is called like the Soft White Underbelly or something like that, where they interviewed this woman that was at one of those parties, and she felt like she just barely escaped getting trafficked. But she was talking about how crazy it was, and she's like, I don't want to like get myself in trouble, but like there was small people there that shouldn't have been there, if you understand what I'm saying. And then she was talking about like P Diddy was like all rubbing up on her and stuff, and she was describing, she's like, it was like, I'm used to men and people hit, but she's like, this is like, he was like possessed. There's like a demon looking at me, like you could feel it. Yeah. You know what else is crazy? I think it was in that Dick Algeier remote viewing. They actually talked about all these people, and that's why you see all this stuff on TV and people point it out. Like, it doesn't look like the same guy. They got body doubles, and all these bad guys in the world are using those freaking Mission Impossible masks now. And we've seen that. We've seen that in action where you can't deny it. The example I used recently was right before Joe Biden dropped out of the race, and everyone's like, where is he? Is he dead? So then they had this video of the White House, which it probably wasn't the White House because there's more than one. They film a lot of the fake stuff at that Tyler Perry movie studio White House. But they showed Joe Biden coming out with his wife and waving, and it clearly looked like him. But he didn't walk like him, and he was suddenly like almost a head taller than his wife, which normally they're the same height. So like, yeah, they've got the equivalent of those masks that Ethan Hunt's always wearing in Mission Impossible. And that's why I always point out the Simpsons. I'm like, that's the biggest Simpsons prophecy that hasn't happened yet, is the one where the election one where he comes out and it was like Bob Dole and whoever the other guy was, and Homer Simpson pulls their masks off and they're those one-eyed alien squid things. I'm like, it's just a matter of time. Just freaking wait. Do you ever see those Hulu commercials? Look up if you haven't seen them, go on YouTube and look up the Hulu alien commercials.
Hey, Earth! Come here. It's time for a little come to dentist meeting. Your parents were right, your teachers were right, even that creepy scoutmaster with the tight brown shorts was right. TV is slowly rotting your brain and turning it into a slimy, gooey, mushy blob of pudding, and there's nothing you can do about it. See? I just told you what was happening, and you're still watching TV. Amazing. But this whole slowly part is getting to be a real problem. Well, guess what? Hulu. We built Hulu to pump thousands of hours of free TV right into the one screen you drag around everywhere. Hence... Now I need you to take your stubby little human fingers and hit this button on Hulu. Then you can share those TV shows in your bliggity blogs and your facey spaces and your tweety pages for all your bookwormy anti-boob-to-be friends. So here's the deal. Help us churn their finely cultured skull beef down to the aforementioned pudding, and we'll slurp out yours last. Eh? Yeah, because we're aliens. And you ain't soup yet.
Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
So they're like, oh, it's like in your face. It's just crazy. Yeah, we just stream all this garbage into your head. You just gobble it up and making your brains all soft so we can eat them because we're aliens. It's freaking nuts. So yeah, the Diddy part, like all that stuff, it was just like devil, Satan, devil, satanic, the elites, the bad guys. Nonstop. It's like, this is real, and it's going to become a bigger freaking deal as we get closer. As this apocalypse continues, people that are waking up are going to wake up a whole lot more. That's why they're basically telling me, get back on the clock and do your freaking job. Like, this is what we trained you for. Ugh. Can I just like play with Lumen in my head and listen to music? I don't like this stuff. But they were also giving me the rules of engagement, and like if you stick within that, you're good to go. But anyway, before we get to that, let's talk about the buoyancy thing, because this is a big key. Like, I saw this visually. This is when I talked about earlier where spirit takes you someplace and shows you something. She showed me like a panorama representation of how this place works behind the scenes. And it's like, imagine you start life and you just got to go from the start line to the finish line, but you're walking across an ocean of red water. And every attachment and every agreement that you take on adds weight. And every bad thing that you do that you don't let go of adds weight. And everything that they're teaching you is like, you need all this stuff to have a successful life. Get a mortgage, get this, get that, get married, you got to have good credit. So you need to get all these things on credit to have good credit. And they just entrap you they teach you that this is what a good life looks like, is to have all this stuff, which just more weight, more weight. Then something bad happens and you've taken on so much weight that you get pulled under the water and it gets really, really bad. And that might not sound much, but what I saw was horrifying. It was like all these ugly squid monsters just tempting people and tormenting people and trying to get them to take the bait so they can snatch them under the water and pull them down into the murky red depths. And that happened to me, part of the hero's journey. So here's the thing, when that happens to you and you're on the bottom of the ocean. So if you think of the surface of the water as the demarcation line between heaven on earth and hell on earth, figuratively speaking, the more weight that you carry, the more you sink into the water. The only way to get off the bottom of the ocean where you're getting eaten alive by evil alien squid monsters is to let go of the weight. So she'll whisper it to you. You'll get these ideas. Let go of your past traumas. Find a way to do this. Let go of this. Let go of that. So each rock that you drop, you start to drift up toward the surface. The more you drift up toward the surface, the more you hear this voice. Drop more weight. Drop this. Let go of that. Let go of this attachment. Do ho'oponopono on this trauma identity. Simplify your life, which may have already happened to you by force. And then it's like you get high enough in the water where you start to see light, and like there's a hand coming down there to try and grab you. And then she starts pulling you toward the surface faster and faster and faster. Keep going, drop more weight, drop more weight. And then something happens and you have the breakthrough and your head comes up through the water and you get the big breath, and then that's when you meet them. That's when you meet them in person. And that's when everything changes. Like you went down to the lowest depths of figurative hell and escaped it. This is the real method for escaping hell and detaching from the world. So let's just go down the list of like some of the things that you can do to drop some of this weight. I just took a break. I think this is meant to be another one of their throw a whole bunch of information out there, and we're going to put it out there to reel some new people in video. I had that thought and I turned my phone back on to record and it was 11:11. Oh, there you go. So we're going to go quick through this because I'm getting kind of tired. Increasing your buoyancy. Number one thing, and we'll deal with all this stuff again as we have many times before in separate videos, is before you can get anywhere with any of this stuff, you got to learn how to bind the adversary. And by that, I mean Satan, because that's what Satan actually means, is adversary. The problem is everything you know about Satan, for the most part, is wrong. That's the game. They teach you stuff. They hide, especially when it comes to the intangibles. They show you images and depictions of things that aren't as they truly are. Therefore, you don't ever recognize what's right in front of your face. Oh, he's a big red guy with horns, or he was God's first angel, or he's not omnipresent, but somehow he has time to screw with 8 billion people, or blah blah blah. They show you exorcism movies and things like that. It's in your head. You hear him every day, but it sounds like you. It's all the interference thoughts. It's the doubtful thoughts. If you're watching this video and you're having thoughts that are like, this guy's full of shit. This guy's full of shit. That's him. That's him. If you're having thoughts like, think about your ex-boyfriend again and what he did to you. Think about your job. Think about your job and what a jerk your boss is. Imagine that your wife is at the gym with some guy flirting and get mad about it, even though you're just imagining it. That's it. That's it. And it sounds like you. They always taught you that, like, inside your head, it's just you and your thoughts. At any given day, you're having your own thoughts, which are usually not focused on the present. They're either in the past or in the future. They're either revisiting bad stuff in the past so you feel pain in the present, or they're revisiting good stuff in the past that you don't have now so that you feel lack in the present, or it's imagining bad things happening to you in the future so you feel fear in the present. And the adversary is your tour guide for all that. But at the same time, she's speaking to you too. It doesn't always sound obvious like you would expect it to. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But like when I was talking to my client earlier today, he was describing all those things to me. I'm like, he was another one of those people that, the video just popped up in the feed and he felt compelled to watch it, and he's been watching ever since. So he's describing things to me that's happening, and he's telling me what's popping into his head as it happens. But then he's like, I know a few people like this. But then it's like, oh, but I'm probably just imagining that, or oh, it's I'm overthinking it, or something like that. That's the adversary. So you got Sophia, who is wisdom, enlightened insight. She's showing you things with your third eye. When images pop into your mind, which you did not choose to create, you are then viewing them. Your imagination is your third eye. It's your God power. It's the reason why they taught you early on that it's insignificant and it's, not the real world. Oh. So I can demonstrate to people by talking to them how all these different forces are at play in their mind all the time. They just don't recognize what's freaking going on. And it's that old conditioning, that old life conditioning of what the real world is. And that's not real, so I must just be imagining it. People stay stuck in that box for a long freaking time. The ancient world, with all their myths and legends and traditions and things like that, they understood all the mystical stuff. But we live in this time where everyone is just freaking retarded. I'm just going to sit here and suck my thumb until a scientist comes along and tells me what to do. That's where we are right now. I'll tell you all about the sun because the scientist told me all about the sun, even though he's never been there. Science and doctors say, listening to all the wrong people. You have a source of perfectly clean information built into your head that tries to talk to you all the time. Well, that's Lumen. Sophia's over here. And then your mind tries to ignore it. You have thoughts that try to warn you about things. And then the adversary says, oh, you're just imagining it. That's not real. Oh, there's more than just you in your head. They just don't want you to know that. But when you start to learn these Gnostic truths, like, you straighten things out. You're like, oh, I do have access to all this stuff. I just need to learn to recognize it. I need to recognize who's talking. I mean, who are you? Like, I've seen all sorts of videos. Like, there's that rapper KRS-One from back in the day. What group was he in? Was it Was it Public Enemy? Velvet? I don't freaking remember. I should know, but I mean, he goes deep on the mind stuff. But it's like, look in the mirror and talk to yourself in the mirror. Like, hey, how you doing, reflection? I'm me. Now say the same thing without moving your mouth. Just say it in your head. And then you can say whatever you want in your head. So who the hell's that in your head that's talking? Oh, that's just me thinking. Think about it a little deeper. You can sit there right now and just close your mouth and imagine yourself tap dancing in your head like, I'm in here doing all sorts of stuff, but I'm on the inside. But you're observing that inner you. Oh, there's been all sorts of crazy, like literally right in front of your face your entire life, and you just didn't ask questions about it. Like, how's this actually work? Oh, let me find somebody in authority to tell me. That's why you stay stuck. So binding the adversary, and that is my speciality. Sith Lords are our speciality. Like, I've accomplished things that not everybody has. The stuff that we build, the stuff that we make, the stuff that we know how to do. I mean, it's like G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the battle. You know what something actually is, you know how something actually works, you know how to defeat it. It's not such a big deal. Half of the reason why people struggle with that stuff is because they were taught to believe in giving it all this power and belief in that's what it can do to hurt you. And guess what? It can, if that's what you believe, because you are the actual power source. You can depower things from hurting you by stop believing that they can. Like, you are not in the physical reality that you thought you were. Yeah, but we're really good at the, like, because I don't know, like, I went through all the Gnostic processes. I did it. I got it out of my head. I don't have it. I don't have it. I can stop talking at any moment and have perfect, utter silence in my head because that part was removed. Oh, I went through some. Now, that was not an easy task. And I even had Lumen and Epinoia and Sophia and all of them for like a full year, year and a half before I did get rid of it. But knowing the ways to shut it up and to bind it can at least get it the hell out of your way while you work on this other stuff. So that's important. Heal, let go of past traumas, the big things that you can still think about. Oh, I got over it. No, you didn't get over it. You buried your emotions about it. If it happened to you a long time ago and you can still remember it perfectly and it's not far from your thoughts, you did not get over it. The reason it's so easy to reconnect to is because there's a piece of you stuck in the time-space matrix at that point, flash frozen in time. There is a soul fragment. And between you and that soul fragment is a quantum entanglement because it's a piece of you. But when you go back and heal it, you dissolve that quantum entanglement, and then you have to kind of struggle to remember that it even happened. You're dragging your past with you. Let it go. That's all that, every one of those things. Like, if your heart chakra is the portal to the light, to source, and it can pump 100 gallons a minute, every little thing that you hold on to shrinks that tube. And when you haven't done any work, you're dragging your past around with you. Ooh, that's like doing something to me energetically. What am I doing with my hands? I'm like compressing my chakra for real. Like, it gets to a point to where you can only do 2 gallons a minute of light source. You're not fixing anything with that. You got to open that bad boy all the way up. Then you get to places where you discover things like, oh, this is what love actually is. Here, this whole time, I thought it was attraction plus attachment. Yeah. You gotta fix the broken thing. Rectify, fix any sins you did against others. That's what we were talking about earlier. Detach from the outer world. We don't have time to do all this stuff. I mean, we've talked about it a million times before, but detaching from the world, like, that's something Jesus said you had to do. And if you make the right commitments, they'll do it for you and you'll know it. Like if you're actually on the hero's journey, like if you ever had a point where something bad happened, something really bad, and then all of a sudden you just lost everything. You lost your house, you lost your job, you lost your money, lost your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, your dog. It was a big struggle. Everyone turned against you all of a sudden. Nothing was easy anymore. Congratulations. What you perceived to be like the worst thing ever was the best thing ever, because you have to detach from the world, and that's what it does. So basically, like if you're all plugged into this big evil octopus and you're playing its game, oh, it'll be nice to you. But when you detach from the big ugly octopus, now it doesn't like you anymore. So it'll take all its other arms and constantly beat you up. And you just go through this whole process until you figure out how grace works. Because you can't get things from the world the way you used to anymore. You got to get them straight from the tap, from source. Assisted detachment. That's the prayer. Well, ask me questions if you found this first video you've ever seen and something grabs your attention. Ask me questions in the comments. I'll direct you to other videos. So otherwise, like this will be a 9-hour video. So when you pray to the highest point of consciousness and you want to know the truth about everything, and you're willing to do whatever you need to do in order to get it, that will trigger a process in which you will be detached. And you'll suffer unless you know it's coming. It's when you don't know it's coming, you don't know why it's happening, it's why you suffer. That was unnecessary. Clean up the inner / upper world, which is your mind. Oh yeah, all this stuff is going to take a while. We can't go into all this stuff. What takes place in your mind is important. Right now, it's just full up with what they taught you the world is. You need to make it your world. Then all of them can exist in there, and you can do all sorts of stuff. So you have to separate from the world. Music, done tons of stuff about the Lumen playlist, having the right music that connects to her, that has the right vibration. Music is like one of the easiest ways to tap into the light if you consciously know what you're doing. Songs like Love is the Answer by England Dan and John Ford Coley, that's like one of the big ones. Isolation, that might happen naturally. Again, what is isolation? It is being cut off from the world. There's lots of regular Christian videos about this, like, why does God set you aside? Or they say all these different words, like, season of isolation or something like that. Oh, he's preparing to give you something back. Now, kind of, sort of. But if you do it for real, like, you never actually go back. Especially the further you go. Like, I pretty much deal with everybody through the internet. And you don't want to go back. You have everything you need. But those are just words until the day that you know what I'm talking about. Be perfectly physically celibate and you'll be happy, because you will have everything that you ever wanted. Grant permission. This is a big one. Because you have your free will, because you have the God fractal in you, for Sophia to do whatever she needs to do in order to free you. So there's a lot of like legalese programming running in the background, where you want something, but deep down you don't really want to go through it. So subconsciously you're not granting permission. But if you're hardcore about it and you write it out on paper and you set up some sort of ritual or something like this, it's like, I unequivocally, with full knowledge of what I'm doing, relinquish my free will and grant full unrestricted permission for Sophia to make whatever changes she needs to for my life in my highest and greatest good so that my mind and my soul can be free of this illusion. You start giving her permissions like that, be like, hey, I trust you, go wild. I mean, buckle up, but she'll get it done. She'll get it done. And when it's all dust all settles, you'll be glad she did. I had another section on my notes, but the video length police are pulling me over at this time. Actually, got a new toy in the from the Amazon while I was filming. Haven't got a new flashlight in a while. That was pretty cool. Only 20 bucks on Amazon. It is a Claris E5. Pretty awesome. But yeah, pretty much, these last couple sections, like they can all be fleshed out into longer videos. I don't know why this video went so long. Well, actually, I kind of do. Talked about it a couple days ago. This particular, pop my mic off here for a sec. This particular pendant was the first one that utilized this supply of Tibetan celestial quartzes that we got in. And I just kind of intuitively followed her instructions, mixing it with several different stones. And even my friend, picked up on it right away. He's like, that is like a direct transmitter for talking to Christos or Sophia. I'm like, yeah, it pretty much is. So it's like they're retuning my knowledge, tell me what to focus on. And sometimes I just go off on a freaking tangent like this, and it's just, there's a little bit of everything in this video. And when she does things like this, it's usually just to put it out there so people see it and they come to find new information or something like that. I don't know. Either which way, it's been going on for a long time. So I need to wrap this up for right now. If you want to get in touch with us, see the stuff that we make, even though like a large portion of it is not listed, best to just ask questions. And we're doing a lot of custom stuff now. clumencreations.etsy.com is our Etsy store. And yeah, stuff works. Stuff works. And I use that usually as my point of contact too, just because everyone's got so many alerts that comes into their phone. There's only 2 alerts that pushes through all, well, besides text message, which I'm not going to just give my phone number out to anybody, but my Etsy messages and like Facebook Messenger. Emails and stuff like that will probably get buried, but you send me a message on there, it alerts my phone and I see it. So that's why we use that. Other than that, we'll try and focus tonight, get to everything we meant to do today, we'll have to do tomorrow. Have to, because we've got packages to pack, things to list. Hopefully this video will be long enough with enough content that I can skip a day and get some of that stuff done. But man, oh man, things are shifting, things are changing, and we're having to learn to think differently. We've gotten so used to following the patterns that were already laid out, and they do somewhat follow some of those patterns, but it is way more complicated than we were taught. And if the simulation was going to be over like any day now, she wouldn't have me doing all this stuff. Now it's gonna keep going, but I will say, like I did in the previous video recently, I am also noticing, as crazy as it's getting, the pattern benefits the side of light. You just got to see far enough ahead. People are waking up. The plans of the rulers are just falling to pieces. So it is still heading in the direction of a conclusion, but there's just no telling what exactly is going to happen. Things are constantly changing. And I wish it was simple. I wish we could figure it out, but it is not possible. You can get far enough and see enough about how the everything works to realize it's not possible to know. It'll just keep shifting. But the light is real within you. Christ Sophia is real. The adversarial force is real. But you don't need to. I should have gone into that. We just ran out of time. Well, that's a good enough. The rules of engagement. That's good enough for its own video. You don't have to fix the world because you can't fix the world. You have to unplug from the world, fix the world in your head. And the more people that unplug and fix the world in their head, the world outside of you is a reflection of the world within you. So the more people that are unplugged from the world and plugged into the light, as that number of people grows, that light then reflects onto the world. And once it reaches a critical saturation, then we're going to shift out of it. But there's no telling when. That's one thing that she does, Sophia, that is authentic. Well, everything she does is authentic. But compared to everybody out there that's attached to their stories, that's got an answer for everything, like, she won't tell you everything. Spoil the surprise. If you're wise, you know that this is the time where we should be learning to unlearn, not come up with more stuff. You gotta clear your head. Don't fear the world or the things in it. When you understand who and what you are, who and what you're connected to, and you actually clean yourself up, what you have in your corner is more powerful than anything in the world. And the world itself isn't what you think it is. You can shift out of it. And even when you're stuck here, like I am currently, if your buoyancy is high enough, you can know that all this stuff is in the world, but you're not going to be dealing with it. The only time you deal with it is when you're helping others, and they're at a higher, they're less buoyant, they're further down in the water, so you got to go down there to help them, assuming that they asked for help. That's a whole nother thing. This video has gone on too long as it is already. Okay, so all the links are in the description box below. Chris and Lumen, the divine partner. See you next time.
Name your price, a ticket to paradise. I can't stay here anymore, and I've looked high and low. I've been from shore to shore to shore. If there's a shortcut, I'd have found it, but there is no easy way around it. Light of the world, shine on me. Love is the answer. Shine on us all, set us free. Love is the answer. Who knows why? Someday we all must die. We're all homeless boys and girls, and we are never heard. It's such a lonely, lonely Ask the man in your heart for the answer. And when you feel afraid, when you've lost your